here is your final product. These are wonderful cookies. I hope you enjoy this recipe as much as my family does. My name is Shachar Banin. I am the Rebbetzin here in Chabad of Venice, Italy. Has anyone ever been to Venice? Let me see some hands. Well, in Venice, there's something very particular. Do you know what it is? It's something that we don't have here. Not even one. Can you guess? This is a city completely without cars. There are no cars in the whole city. There's not even streets to drive in. Everyone walks around or takes a boat. And besides running the Chabad house, we also run a very well-known kosher restaurant called Gam Gam and a bakery and pizzeria that is a few doors down. Gam Gam is located at the main entrance of the Jewish ghetto here in Venice. And in the 1500s, that's when the ghetto started, and it wasn't a happy place. Of course, you can tell by the name. It was a sad place. It was a place where the Jews were not allowed to go out during the night. There was a curfew, and during the day, they could only go out to go to work. And when they did, they had to wear something special, a scarf or some kind of, maybe a Jewish star or a special colored hat, so that everyone would know as they walked around who they were. And this area was the ghetto for 300 years. There were guards at the gates, and it was called ghetto because ghetto comes from an Italian word, gettare. Gettare means to throw. And the area was an iron foundry. And in an iron foundry, they make like big iron cannons, and there's a concept called to throw iron. It's when they're producing the cannons and other things of iron. And to throw in Hebrew is gettare, and the first person is getto. Like if I was going to say I throw, getto. And then from the dialect, it became ghetto. Now, this was many hundreds of years ago, the very first ghetto in the world. And nowadays, after the ghetto was liberated in the 1800s, it became a very famous, very happy place, and now there's a big, beautiful courtyard where there are always children playing, and there's lots of cooking going on, and it's a beautiful place where people love to come and visit and families gather. So now, I'm going to show you how to make bise. Hi, Naomi! Everybody give Naomi a thumbs up or a wave.
Hi guys, I can't see everyone, but I'm just checking in.
It's so great to see you.
Am I in Italy now?
You're in Italy.
Fantastic. Fantastic. What are you making?
We're going to make bise cookies, and I was just starting to explain to the girls that these bise cookies are very famous. There's not a mom or a nonna, which is what we call a grandmother here in Italy. There's not a mama or a nonna that doesn't know the bise cookie from the Jewish ghetto. And these Italian biscotti are some of the most well-known of the typical Jewish desserts here. And these are one of my family's favorites. You know, one of my favorite things to do besides have family and friends together and a big Shabbat meal on Friday night is to wake up on Shabbat morning and have these bise cookies. My family loves them. They're crispy on the outside and chewy on the inside, and they have a beautiful smell. They're amazing. And you know what? Sometimes I have to make a double batch because sometimes they get eaten at night and then there's nothing left for the morning. So I usually make a double batch, and they're so great in the morning to dip into ice cold milk or your favorite hot drink, hot cocoa or tea, whatever it is that you like. We are gonna get started, and they are as easy to make as they are delicious, and that's a good thing because we have about 15 minutes. So those of you who have your ingredients, let's make sure that we have everything. Here we go. We have 3 eggs. By the way, one of the best things about this cookie is that you can make it with ingredients that you usually have in the house anyway. So it's wonderful. Even if you just get a last minute desire to make them, you've probably got the ingredients in your fridge and pantry. So we've got 3 eggs, 1 cup of sugar, a half a cup of extra virgin olive oil. Now normally with cookies, you make with vegetable oil. This is what gives it that distinct Italian taste, and it's really wonderful. We're going to do zest of 1 lemon, a pinch of salt, and 3 1/3 cups of flour. So are you ready to get started? The first thing that we want to do is preheat the oven to 425. That way, do you know why we preheat the oven? You probably do. We preheat it so that we'll have a uniform cooking temperature right from the start. So we're going to cook these cookies for 5 minutes at 425, and then we're going to reduce the temperature. So go ahead and take your 3 eggs and add them to your mixer. You can mix them by hand. It's better if you have an electric mixer or even an immersion mixer. Can somebody unmute themselves and tell me that they're still here?
We're here.
Great, great. Fantastic. So,
I'm here.
sounds great. So you want to go ahead and take your 3 eggs and put them in your mixer, and you can start your mixer going and add your 1 cup of sugar. I already got the mixer going a little bit before we started because it's a little bit noisy and I wanted to make sure that you could hear me. We've got, go ahead and start the mixer with those 2 ingredients with your eggs, and it's important to check the eggs one by one to make sure there are no spots in them, and you look on the top and bottom, of course, for anybody who might not know, in a glass. So I checked those eggs, I put them in with the 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to go ahead and add now the olive oil, and you want to get the eggs. You'll know when it's ready when you get a beautiful golden frothy egg mix. Let's see, maybe it might be messy, but I'm going to show you. You can see actually the dip. Watch how it comes up and the beautiful color that it is. You see it's like a little bit thick. So that's what you're looking for. So once again, that's 3 eggs and 1 cup of sugar. And you really have to give it a good mix. I would say about 2 minutes or so at least. It depends on how cold your eggs are. So while we're mixing, I'm gonna play you a little bit of music. I have a wonderful friend, her name is Chaya Kogan. You may have heard about her, but she's got wonderful music online. Dancing in the kitchen is allowed. How's your eggs coming out? Anybody there think that your eggs are ready? Okay, so now when you're ready, go ahead and add that half cup of extra virgin olive oil. Oh, it looks so good. It's like velvety goodness. And after the oil, we're going to put in the zest of 1 lemon. Now I added my zest, and while you are getting your zest ready, I just wanted to tell you a couple of things about the zest. By the way, I use a mandolin like this. You see that? This is a fantastic little mandolin that has a rubber tip, so I can lay it right on top of the mixing bowl and do the zest, and it goes directly into the bowl. It's really convenient, and it makes it for very easy cleanup. When you're doing this, you know, of course, that it's very sharp. Be super careful, because it doesn't matter how young or old we are, we have to be really careful. So you want to get all the yellow of the zest, and underneath where you have the white, you want to avoid the white. The white is called the pith, as you probably know. You want to avoid that completely, because that's a little bit bitter. So you want to get all of the yellow, even on the edges, and so fragrant and beautiful, and that is the essence of these cookies. So after you get your zest in there, then we're going to add the flour and a pinch of salt. So you can go ahead and add the pinch of salt while it's on your mind, so you don't forget. And by the way, you probably know, you can unmute yourself and let me know if you know the answer to this. What is it called when you have all your ingredients ready before you start cooking? Anybody want to give a guess? It's called mise en place. It's a French expression which means everything in place. And this way you can be sure that before you start that you have all your ingredients, that you have the proper amount, that you haven't run out of anything, and it's all measured out, so it makes it really easy and fun to add everything. So just as a recap, we've added 3 eggs, 1 cup of sugar, a half a cup of extra virgin olive oil, zest of 1 lemon, and 3 1/3 cups of flour, and the pinch of salt. The flour we're going to add in 2 batches, because it makes it a little bit easier to mix. And the flour, I'm going to incorporate the flour by hand with a spatula. I like using a rubber spatula even to mix. You can also use a wooden spoon, but because you have to scrape down the sides of the bowl every so often, I use it just to do all the mixing. So I'm going to go ahead so you can see and add in about half of the flour. Again, it's 3 1/3 cups. And then just give that a mix. Oh, it looks so good, and I can smell the lemon. Unmute yourself and let me know if you can smell the lemon. Not all the way here in Venice, but in your own kitchen. How's it going there, everyone? Racheli, how are you doing? Racheli, go ahead and unmute yourself if you are near the computer.
I think it's Racheli, Tanya.
Hi. And who else do we have here? We have Ruth Hirsch. We have, is that Razy Grossman? Nobody wants to be on camera? That's okay. And Racheli, there's another Racheli, Racheli K. How are you doing? So now I'm going to put in the rest of the flour. And one thing to be really sure is that you've mixed all the way from the bottom, because you want to make sure that you get all the flour incorporated and that you don't have any lumps at all. Has anybody that's in the room, unmute yourself if you've ever been to Venice. Actually, you can just stay unmuted.
No, I haven't been.
No? Well, I'm waiting for you. Hopefully things will settle down very soon and everyone will be able to come. Okay, how's it going? Since we're incorporating the flour by hand, and I'll tell you in a minute the reason why I do that, is it could be that maybe your arm gets a little bit tired. If you hold it lower, whatever you're mixing with, then you'll be using your hand muscle more, and it makes it a little bit easier. But the reason why I like to mix cookie dough by hand as opposed to completing it in a mixer is that the more that cookie dough is worked, the tougher the cookie becomes. And because we want this cookie to be soft and airy and fluffy, we don't want to overwork the batter at all. So it looks like mine is just about done. This is the consistency you want, that it's gonna stick there, okay? Oops. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is roll out our dough. And you can just continue with whichever stage you're in. So you just use a little bit of flour. You don't want to use too much. You don't want to incorporate any extra flour into, or not too much, into the batter. So generally, I let the batter stay in the fridge for about a half hour if I have the time. Most times I don't have time for that, and I just go ahead and make the cookies right away. You have to do it with a little bit of a delicate hand if you do that, but nonetheless, it will work. So you might have to use a little bit more flour, but what I did was I prepared an extra batter so that we can go through this together. So you continue, wherever you're holding, you continue, and just to take a look at, I'm gonna take this off to make it a little bit easier. So I use about this much, like a big spoonful for each cookie. This recipe makes about 19 cookies. So what I do is I make the cookie the length of my hand and then some. So as I'm rolling out the stick, in order to make the cookie, we're gonna roll sticks and then shape them into the letter S. I extend it a little bit past my wrist and a little bit past my longest finger. So I actually roll sideways, so that way I can see right away as soon as it gets to that right length. Maybe just adjust it a little bit on the ends so that it's even, and then I give a little tap like this on the ends so that it's really got that perfect shape. Now, I wanted to tell you a little trick. It has to do with what I mentioned before about making sure that the cookies don't get overworked and too tough. So when you go to shape the cookie, you don't want to put the stick on your lined baking sheet and then shape it. You want to shape it first. As in that 2 seconds as you're transferring the stick to the baking sheet, you want to go ahead in the air practically and make the S shape. And then if you have to make some fine adjustments, you can. Tap it on the ends, make it an even stick, and then go ahead and shape it, and you put it directly on your tray. So there you are. You fill up your tray. I like to get about 4 in 2 rows, and the recipe makes between 18 and 20 cookies. And here is your final product. These are wonderful cookies. I hope you enjoy this recipe as much as my family does.